All right, welcome back to our voting session for Thursday, March 21st, 2024. We will start with Department of Natural Resources, Maryland Geological Survey Fund Establishment. Chair Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill, SB 305, is identical to HB 117 as passed by the House. The motion certainly is favorable. It's a departmental bill that just establishes the Maryland Geological Survey Fund and the Department of Natural Resources to finance the direct and indirect costs of administering the Maryland Geological Surveys, including long-term budgeting and planning for survey projects, procurements, and equipment purchases. Move.
Bill's moved and seconded. What district is the Geological Survey in? Chair Boyce.
43A, my district. Thank you very much.
Bill's moved and seconded. Discussion on the bill. All in favor of SB 305, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone should be recorded in opposition. Bill passes. SB 518, Chair Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 518 is identical to a bill HB 285, which is brought to HB 285 was brought to you by a fantastic delegate who introduced all of you to the ground rules established in the summer of 1632 by King Charles I. This bill, however, extends a termination date of a bill by the Task Force of Appraisal and Valuation Equity from June 30th, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. The bill also extends the date by which the required report is to be submitted from October 31st, 2023 to October 31st, 2024. Move the bill. There are no amendments.
Second.
Bill's moved and seconded. Discussion on the bill. All in favor of SB 518, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Bill passes. We are going to jump to House Bill 538. Chair Stewart.
Touch the button, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 538 received a favorable with amendments recommendation from the Land Use and Ethics Subcommittee. And before I get into the amendments, I just want to, this was quite a lot of work for our subcommittee. So I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to thank Ben for all of his labor of love that he's poured into this, the Speaker, Pat O'Leary from the Speaker staff, and last but not least, all the members of the Land Use and Ethics Subcommittee. We had some really good discussions around this bill, and I think the discussions helped improve it and are reflected in the amendments you're about to hear. So I just wanted to start off with that. So essentially, what this bill does is amended at its heart is two things. One, it requires local jurisdictions to allow the placement of new manufactured and modular homes in zoning districts that allow for single family residential use. And then the core of the bill increases the allowable densities for three types of what are called qualified projects in the bill. For the first type of qualified project, are projects within 0.75 miles of a high frequency transit stop. The second type of qualified project are those that are controlled by nonprofit organizations, 501c3s. And the third type of qualified project are those that are located on formerly state-owned properties, namely campuses, old schools, old hospitals, and the like. And if you're one of those three qualified projects under the bill as amended, you get two basically big goodies. One, you get a density bump, and two, you get an expedited hearing process. So that's what the bill does as amended. What the amendments do, first of all, the biggest change we made to the bill is that we removed the section entirely on the adequate public facility ordinances, APFO. That was something that I know came up in the hearing that a number of us had concerns about. I heard from a lot of you individually that had concerns about that provision. We initially thought that maybe we could tweak it to save it, but we ended up just tossing it out, and we're going to come back to that issue probably in a future session. The next thing we did is we cleaned up some language around the manufactured and modular home portion of the bill. Just a technical amendment to make sure everyone knew what we were talking about with modular homes. These are homes that are built off-site and then brought somewhere else and then placed affixed to the foundation. The other major amendment we did was we reduced the required percentages of affordable units that you get as a qualified project. So the way the bill came in is that in order to be a qualified project, for example, owned or controlled by a nonprofit, the project had to be 50% affordable. We halved that to 25. For state-owned property, it came in as 50% affordable. We have that to 25. And TOD came in as 25% affordable. Transit-oriented development came in at 25%, and we lowered that to 15%. The reason we did this is because we don't want to be shooting for so much affordability in the bill that we miss. And that's to say that we don't want to be shooting for what our perfect project is and sort of being shooting for the moon so much that no projects are actually approved because that level of affordability would not pencil out for developers. So we lowered them. We also heard some concerns about concentration of poverty and about having too high of an affordability level. I'm sure if you asked, all 24 of us what our preferred affordability number would be, we'd probably all come up with a different number. But this bill, was the work of a lot of compromise and consensus. And so that's reflected in those new affordability numbers. The next thing we did was we exempted from preemption certain areas in the TOD section that are zoned single family. So we heard concerns from folks about neighborhoods that are currently single family only and are near transit, and whether or not they should be affected by the new density bonuses in the bill. And as a result, we struck that provision, which is to say that if you are a single family neighborhood that was zoned as such by January 1, 2024, and you're within 0.75 miles of transit, even though you're that close to transit, you won't be impacted by the density bonuses in the bill. The next thing we did is we clarified language that the density bonuses in the bill are not so-called stackable. So in other words, if you are building near transit and you're a nonprofit and the neighborhood near transit was a formerly state-owned campus, you're not going to get 3 density bonuses. You can only get 1, even if you hit multiple boxes. You only get 1. They're not stackable. So we clarified that in the amendments. And we also made it clear that we were not going to have qualified projects on land that's located on agricultural or conservation land. So those are also out of the bill as well. And I think let me just make sure I'm not forgetting any other sort of technical things. Those are basically, we also extended the effective date of the bill to January 1, 2025. We changed up the public hearing section a little bit. It came in as limiting public hearings to a maximum of 1. Local jurisdictions couldn't require more than 1 for 4 different types of public hearings: local governing body public hearings, planning commission public hearings, board of appeals public hearings, and historic preservation public hearings. We left that original language in, limiting the meetings to 1 before the board of appeals or historic preservation, but we doubled it to 2 before local governing bodies and planning commission. So that means that the maximum number of public hearings that a qualified project would have under the bill is 6 total. Let's see if there's anything else that's substantive. And then we also added a new position that's sort of related tangentially to the bill, and that's the position of the Historic Property Revitalization Director. And we specify what that person's job duties would require. We also altered some definitions, mostly sort of technical amendments, and that is all of the that's all the amendments. So we did a lot of work, and I would like to move them.
Amendments have been moved and seconded. First of all, Delegate Stewart, thank you for your work. I think you all had at least 3 detailed work sessions in subcommittee, and having listened to those, I think every member of the subcommittee has their fingerprints on this bill. And I actually think because of your work going around talking to folks, pretty much every member of this committee has had some input on the amendments here. So thank you for that. And of course, thanks to Ben. And thank you to the governor's staff as well, because they've been extremely involved, as has the Department of Housing and Community Development. And of course, the Speaker's Office, as you said. So thank you for your hard work on that. I do have a couple items I just want to clarify for my own benefit so I can decide how I'm going to vote.
Sure.
You mentioned around high frequency transit, but in the bill, it's specific types of rail transit. So a bus rapid transit stop would not qualify. Is that accurate?
That's right. It's just rail stops.
Okay. And then I got a little lost in the APFO discussion. So I just want to be clear. Under this bill as amended, if it moves forward, the status quo for APFO today, adequate public facilities ordinance, would remain. So if a county like mine has an adequate public facilities ordinance, they could apply that. If a county like Baltimore County doesn't have one, whatever that case may be, nothing changes under this bill with the.
Correct. This bill makes 0 changes to the APFO status quo.
Okay, and then you talked a little about single family home zoning. If there is a project that is a nonprofit qualifying density bonus in a single family home neighborhood, it would qualify for the density bonus?
That's correct. The only single family related change we made to the bill was in the section around transit oriented development.
Okay, so if I get a bonus for being state-owned property, which we probably don't have a lot of in single family home neighborhoods, you would also get the bonus in single family home areas there, just not for those transit bonuses.
That's right.
Okay. But any other kind of land around a transit station, you would get that benefit no matter how it's zoned in the county today, as long as it's not single family.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for walking me through that. Delegate Terasa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the chair of the subcommittee for talking with me a lot and taking some of my comments and taking all of them very seriously. But I have a question about the hearing thing. So the hearing is they can't have more than 2 local hearings except for the historical and the Board of Appeals. They can't have more than 2 what type of hearings?
2 before the local governing body. So that would be like if the county council, for example, was like served as the planning department in that jurisdiction, you can't, if it's a qualified project, the locality could not mandate more than 2. And then also before the planning commission itself, you're limited to 2.
On what issue? Like, so there's zoning, like you would have a zoning hearing, you might zone the property. That's one hearing. You might have a site development plan hearing. You might have, there's all sorts of hearings that you have on local land. And I wouldn't think it'd make any sense. I'm sure that that has to be limited in some way.
Yeah, let me pull up the relevant section real quick.
Because I would say any property in Howard County has already had at least 1, if not 2 hearings on that property at some point in time.
Right. So the project itself, it says basically
Okay.
a qualified project under the subtitle may not be reviewed at more than 2 public hearings before each of the following. So that's not necessarily
Okay, it's just review of the project.
of the entire project as a
Thank you
whole,
for
not
clarifying.
necessarily
That's much better.
not necessarily like every nitpicky like new permit that they have to get.
And not for every hearing they've ever had on that land.
Exactly.
Okay, much better. Thank you.
And if the product is substantially changed, does that still apply or does that have to go back for another hearing?
It would have to go back for another one.
Okay, so I'm just saying, so if it's the same project, but it's been substantially changed, then the provision does not say no additional hearing. You get the additional hearing.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Delegate, could you just review what the density bonuses consist of again?
Yeah, totally. So if you turn to page, let's find this in the reprint. Which one? So that's right. Okay. Yeah. So if you turn to page 7, that's the density bonus section. And it says in line 23 that the density limit is basically you get a 30% density bonus.
Okay, so for example,
For whatever is allowed in that zone right now.
so if a property zone DR1, then effectively it could be DR 1.3.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Delegate Guyton.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to publicly thank both the governor's office, you, Mr. Chair, our vice chair, specifically though, subcommittee chair, Vaughn Stewart, for really listening to my concerns on this bill and how it might affect my community, and for being willing to work with me to amend the bill to include the APFO provision. I think it is also really important to repeat what you said, Mr. Chair, in that in counties like Baltimore County, there is not currently an adequate facility ordinance. This would be one of the only ways that the county could have any influence over what is built in those specific areas. So I'm hoping that our county council is listening very closely to this and then we make some changes in that shortly. But I just want to say thank you to this committee for making this a bill, something that I think will bring more positive changes to my community than negative, and I will be happy to vote for it.
Thank you, Delegate Guyton. Delegate Terasa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to comment because I know you don't like commenting when you vote, but before, so. I do really appreciate all the changes on this and I'll support it. I just feel the need to say that I think we need to go very cautiously into zoning on the state level. And I know we've had that conversation and I know everybody's cognizant of that, but I feel the need to say that again. I will be supporting this though.
Mr. Chair, if I could, just briefly to those two remarks, I appreciate the shout out and I appreciate y'all's support for the bill. And I think that the subcommittee and I think the full committee and I think the governor's office too, we believe that this is sort of represents a pretty cautious toe into the water of statewide zoning, you know, and I think that we have to weigh on the one hand concerns about local control with the reality that we've heard all session that we don't have enough housing. And so we tried to weigh those two concerns and be as balanced and fair as we could. I appreciate both of y'all for your input to make that happen. And, you know, I think this represents, after the subcommittee's work on it, a pretty modest step in that direction.
Delegate Healy.
Thank the subcommittee and the chairman and everyone involved, the governor's office, everyone came with really good faith and looking for a way to get to the goal, which is more housing in Maryland. We just don't have enough. We're like at probably more than 100,000 units shy of just having what we need for the people who are already here looking for a place to live. And that doesn't include growth and people we want to move here. So I am very, very happy to see the product that you've come up with, and I really admired the governor taking this step forward, because it wouldn't happen if there wasn't somebody with vision to take that scary first step, knowing that it's going to be debated a lot. And I'm very happy to vote for it.
On the amendments, all in favor of the amendments, please signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed to the amendments? Can the amendments pass their additional amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have an amendment of the desk.
Amendment number 1.
I have one final subcommittee amendment that we did not take up. We didn't get it in time, but it was also the result of some feedback from members of the subcommittee. It basically says that before a qualified project can exceed a density in an area that's currently zoned for basically non-residential use, and especially in industrial areas in particular, that there should be a public health impact assessment by the local jurisdiction that is also approved by the Department of Housing and Community Development. What we're trying to, this is really an environmental justice amendment. We're trying to make sure that by creating more housing, including housing for working class people or people of color, that we're not putting them unwittingly in a toxic area. I move the amendment.
Amendments moved and seconded. Discussion on this amendment. Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so I was on the subcommittee, so I'm sorry if I missed this, but
No, you did. This is new. This is new.
Is this new? This is brand new.
This is
Okay.
brand new. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, I thought we took industrial out of the bill.
We took industrial out of the definition of mixed use. So mixed use housing or mixed use projects are one of the possible types of projects they can go in to neighborhoods if they're a qualified project under the bill. We adjusted the definition of mixed use to make it clear that we're not talking about housing and an industrial use as a mixed use.
Okay.
But we did not take care of this other issue of what if you have a not mixed use, but an actual just 100% residential housing project going into an area that is non-residential and potentially toxic. And that's what this amendment is designed to address, to make sure that we're sort of looking before we leap there.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody good on the amendment?
I had the same question.
Okay, all in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed to the amendment passes.
Move the bill.
Bill's moved and seconded. Further discussion, questions on the bill? Anyone want to say anything? Okay, we're gonna roll call it.
Vice Chair Boyce,
Yes.
Delegate Holmes,
Aye.
Delegate Love,
Yes.
Delegate Jacobs, Delegate Otto, Delegate Silberti, Delegate Terrassa, Delegate Ruth,
Yes.
long excused, Delegate Allen.
Yes.
Delegate Naraki, Delegate Morgan, Delegate Addison, Delegate Baker, Delegate Ziegler, Delegate Foley, Delegate Guyton, Delegate Davis excused, Delegate Lehman, Delegate Stewart, Delegate Stein, Delegate Healy.
Bill passes 19-6. We will go back to our transportation bills, HB 332, Chair Love. I'm sorry, Delegate Love, I forgot the all-important pile-on amendment. Does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor?
Oh.
Vice Chair Boyce, Delegate Holmes, Delegate Love, Delegate Ruth, Delegate Allen, Delegate Foley, Delegate Lehman, Delegate Stewart, and Delegate Healy. And Vice Chair Waldstreicher, we took care of your bill already. Delegate Foley did a great job representing you. Sorry you had to walk over. But I got to see you twice in one day. Holmes, Ruth, Allen, Foley, Lehman, Stewart, and Healy. Everybody good?
Trump, I said.
Okay, House Bill 332, Chair Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 332 came out of subcommittee favorable with amendments. I want to give a special thank you to Delegate Addison for all her hard work on this bill and care for Baltimore City. As amended, HB 332 requires the Motor Vehicle Administration in consultation with Baltimore City and other interested jurisdictions to prepare a report on motor vehicles owned by Maryland residents that are improperly registered in another state. The amendments are the bill. Move the amendments.
Amendments have been moved and seconded. Let me just briefly say, right when I got this job and I went to all your districts, I drove to Delegate Addison's district, and this is the first issue she wanted to talk about. I know it's also important to Delegate Naraki. We heard from Delegate Taveras about it. We definitely have a serious problem here. This bill is a first step. It is not a solution. It is a first step for us to get our arms around the problem. There's also budget language on this as well, so we can come back next year and come up with a comprehensive statewide plan for how we're going to deal with this. So I just want to thank everybody for their work on it. In particular, we have two committee members who have been steadfast on it. Any other discussion on the amendments? Okay, on the amendments, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed to the amendments? Okay, amendments pass.
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
HB 332 as amended has been moved and seconded. Discussion on the bill. Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Okay, does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor? Vice Chair Boyce, Delegate Terrassa, Delegate Ruth, Delegate Allen. Gives me great pride to say Delegate Naraki.
Okay, I have Boyce, Terrassa, Ruth, Allen, Naraki.
Everybody good? Okay, House Bill 573, Chair Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 573 came out of the subcommittee favorable. There are no amendments. HB 573 increases the members on the Citizens Committee for the Enhancement of Communities surrounding Baltimore, Washington, Thurgood Marshall Airport. It increases from 11 members to 12. Instead, the Secretary of Transportation recommending an appointment from District 12. The bill requires one member of the committee to be recommended by the delegates representing District 12A and one member of the committee to be recommended by the delegate representing District 12B. Move the bill.
Second.
Any discussion on the bill? Delegate Allen.
Just to be clear, Madam Chair, so is this gonna bring the total number of people on the committee to an even number or an odd number?
To an even number. We actually had that conversation in subcommittee. And the sense was that they're not really voting on a lot of controversial policy issues. So that shouldn't be a problem, but
Okay.
there's always next year if it becomes a problem.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Further discussion on the bill? Okay, all in favor of House Bill 573, please signify by saying aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Okay, bill passes. Thank you all. Just, sneak preview. I think next week, we're pro forma tomorrow, so we won't have anything in committee tomorrow or Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I think we should assume senators marching over here to talk about their bills, and then voting sessions probably Tuesday and Thursday is the tentative plan as we try to work through what's left of our business. I do not think there are any subcommittee announcements, but the subcommittee chairs can wave me down. Yep. And, okay, no subcommittee announcements. We have two or withdrawal bills we need to vote on, HB 11 and HB 293, all in favor of accepting the withdrawal, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, I think with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all so much.